It's my normal voice, and we're going to hear about Hacktoberfest from the great Jeremy Lawson, Jeremy Germbo Lawson. So, who are we? What's going on? Why did you show up here? What's going on? How did you know that you went to the right place? Well, we are FloridaJS. We are a combination of the old Palm Beach JS that some of you just mentioned a little while ago, Boca JS, biggest group in the world, but not so much anymore because now we're bigger than they are, and React Fort Lauderdale or React Broward. Jeremy Lawson can be found on Slack, Twitter, and GitHub. These are the organizers. Jeremy Lawson's going to talk in a minute. I'm Damian Montero. Jeannie Ramos will be with us in the future meetups, and we meet the first Tuesday of every month. If you do want to thank us, if you find this interesting, do me a favor. It makes my heart happy. It grows just one or two large sizes larger, just like the Grinch. If you go to youtube.com/FloridaJS, you don't have to follow anybody else, just me. And that means I'm very, very, very happy. Jeremy, since you're going to be talking, you want to talk about this as well?
Sure do. This is my favorite slide here, right? So Damian's passion is the YouTube channel. My passion is these two groups, the Tech Hub South Florida. I think we're South Florida Tech Hub now. We've changed again. There's big things happening here. But the more important part, the stuff that you guys care about for all the new faces, is our Slack channel. It is the most active in the Southeast region, dare I say. Definitely South Florida, most active one in Florida. This is a great channel. If you want to check out the developers channel, if you're stuck, if you have a question about something, or you just want to geek out, hit up the developers channel. I guarantee you there's someone there with the expertise and compassion to help you out. If you notice a question in there that you can answer, that's a great way to give back to the community. So hit up the developers channel. If you want to find out about all of the events that are going on in South Florida, the events channel, that's where it's being posted. If you're in a position for a new gig, check out the gigs hiring. There's so many more in there. Sagiv just started one a little while ago for a chess master. So if you are into chess and want to geek out with fellow chess nerds, check out that channel.
Thank you, brother.
Absolutely. There's a design channel. There's a book club. There's all sorts of good stuff happening there. So feel free to sign up to any one of them. You can connect with myself, Damian, or Jeannie. We're always looking for contributors and speakers at this event. So I'm Germbo, he's Damian, and Jeannie Beanie, right? Jean Beanie. Code Palm Beach is a nonprofit organization dedicated to teaching kids to code. I sit on there as the chair, and we are always looking for volunteers and open source contributors. I've got a couple of tools. One of them is called Typer, that is dedicated, that's trying to teach kids to type with sneaking a lesson of HTML and CSS in there as well. So we host multiple events across various locations, both virtual and in person. So if you're interested in mentoring a student, we're always looking for volunteers. But if you're not really the mentor type and you want to contribute and give back, check out the repositories or connect with me. I'd love to have a deeper conversation. Also, check out the website for more information. So let's get into it. Hacktoberfest.
Yeah.
So
go, Jeremy.
We've given this conversation a couple of times over the years, and if you go to the website that I dropped in the link, it kind of explains what it is, right? So the whole point of Hacktoberfest is to hack, have fun, contribute to open source communities. So if you're not already signed up, you need a GitHub account or GitLab account, and you click this big old fancy start hacking button. I've already gone through the setup process, so this is loading my profile. This year's goal is to have 4 merge requests or pull requests and merged in, and this is where it's tracking your progress. There's a bunch of information you guys might want to know, so I would definitely highly recommend checking out the fact page to answer those questions right away. But in a nutshell, is open source community, time to give back to the open source contributors and take some of those tasks off their hands. Fix a bug, create documentation, fix documentation, close a feature request or something like that. That's what we're looking for. You do have to be aware of finding a repository that has the flag of Hacktoberfest or Hacktoberfest 2021. Otherwise, it won't count against this. This goes back to the evolution I was talking about a little bit a while ago, where this is up to the maintainer, Damien and myself, to say we want this help. If the maintainer doesn't want it, with the Hacktoberfest flags, your pull requests aren't going to count towards that. But that does not necessarily mean they don't want the help, right? So they a lot of times, if you look at the issues, they will say, have some sort of tags here that will say this is a good first issue, open for enhancement, or like I put on here, Hacktoberfest accepted or help wanted. So just because it's not labeled Hacktoberfest doesn't mean you can't contribute to this. It's just not for what Hacktoberfest is doing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about sample APIs and things that I need. So the whole point of sample APIs started off as me needing to teach my students what RESTful endpoints are without the layer of authentication. Authentication is super important, but it's hard enough to talk about what HTTP verbs are without having to get into authentication process on that. So it started off with Futurama database. Sagiva was pointing out that he was my student back at Code Palm Beach, or Palm Beach Code School days, and we built a little Futurama quiz app. And it started there with, okay, let me build that little RESTful endpoint to pull out the questions. And I was like, well, Futurama has a lot of products on there. It's like, let me put the products on there and be like, okay, well, let me put the episodes on here, and let me put the characters and some of their quotes and other things like that. And this turned into a nice little tidy database. And then as I was thinking about it, I was like, well, Game of Thrones was hot at the time. Why not do something similar to Game of Thrones, or Pokemon? It's always a good one, or Harry Potter, or random things like that. And then instead of making individual APIs, because originally it was called Futurama DB, why not just call it sample APIs and put anything and everything on there? So that's where sample APIs is born from. And it has evolved into an open source community. What we're looking at is the third iteration of this. This is built on a Node backend with a JSON server running the API service. So it's all based on a single JSON document file that is running all of that. And I'll get into how to contribute to it and how do I scrape data and things like that here in just a second. And then the front end is a React project. So this is all pulling from my Node backend. So if I go to, you might as well just go to Futurama since we're talking about it. This is a little playground area where each individual API has a synopsis, has some tags around it, and URLs we can get, and a little playground. So this is kind of CodePen-esque in the sense that if you wanted to mess with it, I'm giving you examples on how to pull using vanilla JavaScript and display it on the screen. And we click around to info, characters, casts, whatever. But also notice I have actual CodePen examples sourced from myself or the community. So another aspect of this is GraphQL. This was an open source contribution from a coworker. When I was explaining him the idea, he's like, have you heard about GraphQL? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, how about we add something like that to this? And I was like, sure, submit a pull request. And then like 2 days later, he submitted this pull request. So it's utilizing the same concepts, the single source of truth, this JSON document that I'll show you in a second. And now I have a GraphQL-like server. Now I say GraphQL-like because this isn't a full-blown server. This is reading off a .json file, so there are some limitations. But the principles, as I'm teaching this, I can get across at a very high level. So that's sample APIs in a nutshell, a little bit of the origin story, a little bit of the evolution of where it's at and where we're currently at. Cool, any questions about that? Like what Hacktoberfest is or what my sample APIs is all about?
How do we sign up? Just go there. Should we show that? Or just go to the website?
Sign up to what, Hacktoberfest?
Yes, just go to Hacktoberfest.
Yeah, I did that.
Oh yeah. You gotta connect your GitHub, or you said Bitbucket?
GitLab or
GitHub.
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 Yep. So a couple things to note when contributing to an open source or thinking about contributing to open source is to check out the issues, right? What's there? Do they have something flagged as help wanted, or is it flagged Hacktoberfest? Those are good things to start looking at. If it's flagged help wanted, open it up, read it. What does it say? I created this 30 minutes ago and I've already got some bidders on there. So if you guys want to get on it, I'm not going to assign this to anybody, and I don't expect contributors to do that. It's more of go in, get it. If multiple people work on it, then it's a scenario of first one in wins type thing, or I, as the maintainer of this, get to choose what one's best. That's the power I hold. One thing to consider is, does it have the flag, and does it have clear documentation as what it is I'm trying to do? But also, you want to be sure you look at the contributor covenant code of conduct. Most projects that are open source looking for this at this level have a code of conduct. So just make sure you're abiding to their standards, and it's basically just don't be a jerk. Okay, don't call anybody out, no name calling in the comments, and be a decent human being. More importantly, I shouldn't say more important. That's terrible to say. That's very important. What I care about as far as the contribution coming in is that it follows the guidelines of what it is I'm looking for. Because if you if you submit code that doesn't fit with anything based on what I'm trying to do in here, the contributing to sample APIs will spell out how to do that. I'll hand raise, I think. Who has a question? Go ahead, just unmute yourself and talk. Interrupt me.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm not used to that. For that example you had for the REST APIs, when you said multiple people could submit, for that, since you're looking for samples, couldn't all contributors be equally eligible to be accepted rather than you saying, oh, this is the best?
Well, this one was specifically for documentation about REST. So the pull request that I have or the issue I have for add an endpoint, yeah, that's my perpetual. It's always open. Anyone can contribute to it till infinitum, and I'm never going to close that ticket because I want more data. So there are some where it's like, fix this bug, and if the contributor or the contributor is like, can you assign this to me? I, as the maintainer, I'm probably not going to assign it to you. It's up to you to just maybe assign it to yourself to flag that someone is working on it, or don't assign it to yourself. And if you get it in before everybody else does, then cool.
And this is more of a personal question. Do you have people try to get it assigned to them and then kind of let you down? They don't get to it, or?
So yeah, that's why
Great
I don't
question.
assign it to anybody, because this is a strictly volunteer base. So there's no obligation. There's no, like, you're not hurting my feelings by not doing it. I'm not mad at you for saying you wanted to do it and then didn't do it. So if you get to it, great. Thank you for your contribution. I think if I assign it to somebody, then that takes away the potential for someone else to pick it up and run with it. Because if you happen to, something comes up and you can't finalize it, then that's fine. Life happens outside of my sample APIs. But if it's still assigned to you, I don't know that you are not able to work on it anymore, and therefore it's not going to get done. So that's another reason why I wouldn't assign it to anybody.
Okay. And like browsing, trying to find, specific issues or whatever to work on. I've seen that, like, there's a lot of people going in there and we're like, hey, I want to work on this. Can you assign it to me? And I've seen the replies of like, we're not assigning it to anybody. Just go ahead and work on it.
Yeah. I mean, and the reason why we're not doing that is for the reasons of, this is a volunteer based thing. So, if life happens, that takes priority over my sample APIs. But on top of that, it's extra work. This isn't your job. I'm not managing that part of it. I'm managing what comes in when you submit it to me and making sure it's up to our standards. But the code of conduct is very important to read, to figure out what we expect our contributors to comply with, and then our how do you contribute to the repo is something. Every open source maintainer is going to have a slightly different contribution guide. The code of conduct is, I don't want to say standard, like it's copy and paste, but there is a template we work off of, and tweaked our personal beliefs and standards. So these are the two things. Is just make sure you guys are aware of. That's all I wanted to point that out there. Yeah, so looking at the issue to add an endpoint, Damien also linked the how to contribute summary. If you guys notice too, if something is incorrect, please let me know. It's been a while. This thing is ever evolving. So a great pull request is fix the documentation, right? The stuff doesn't match up reality anymore. So always looking forward to that. All right, so let's get into it. Any other questions about what's going on there? No? Cool. So I was preparing a little bit of a talk and trying to figure out what the best topic is going to be, right? As far as like what to contribute by. And I broke it down to how do you find inspiration to get data on here, right? Because sample APIs is a hodgepodge. It's all over the place. If we look at the API list, I've got cartoon stuff here, I got sports stuff here, I got coding resource, I got coffee. What does fake bank even mean, right? It's just random data from a Futurama universe. If you lived in that world, what a bank transaction might look like for you. There's health, there's movies, games, all sorts of stuff. So how do you gain inspiration on what it is you want to do? And I go back to the idea of what's interesting to you, what's personally interesting. Start with that type of theme. We're missing a cars API. Give me a cars API. That's a great contribution. So the idea
do we have
is
anybody online that's a big car enthusiast? No.
Chris
no,
DeLeon.
That's me.
Chris
is the
oh,
car guy.
yeah.
I was
made
looking
the
at the
comment.
chat. Yeah.
Damn. Oh,
Absolutely.
yes. Oh, damn.
So the next question is, how do I gather information and create an object? So before I get into that part, so my first thought was, I've been eyeballing this game for a little while called Monster Sanctuary, and it's kind of like, I don't want to say a poor man's version of Pokemon, but like Pokemon Light, right? So I'm not ready to jump into the whole Pokemon thing, but I want the idea of like evolving a little character and having little battle royales with it. I'm a turn-based RPG fan, so this
all
one
I hear is
was
NFTs, just like,
exactly. I don't know what else to call it. It's just Pokemon Light, maybe. I don't know. So I was thinking about, what about starting off very simply with this of just getting all the monsters that exist in this particular universe and creating an API, starting an API around the Monster Sanctuary endpoint, right? So I want to point out how high level these things are built. So if we look at, you know what I should do first, I should do git checkout main, git pull, just in case I mess something up. So if you guys don't have Git knowledge, that's a great thing to brush up on, because submitting a pull request is largely about doing that. So you notice I have two windows open. If we go to the code base, I have one repo, right? This is a mono repo of a client side and the server side. The client side is my React, hence the React blue, and the server side is Node, hence the Node green. So I opened inside the same folder, they're separate projects. I just wanted to keep them all together instead of having multiple repositories, because they're so tightly coupled with each other or integrated with each other. So that's what the differences are. I'll talk about React here in just a second, because what we care about in the short term is the structure here. So what you guys are going to care about in contributing to an API is, ultimately, I need two things from you. I need a JSON file and a backup JSON file, right? So if we look at the avatar JSON file, just because it's alphabetical, and we look at the high level items here, we have metadata, info, characters, episodes, and questions. Let's take a quick look at avatar. Look at that. I have info, characters, episodes, and question. Metadata is what's populating the front end of all this stuff right here. I have things like title, long description, and short description. Is it featured, and what categories are it in? Another metadata item that you might see, like if you look at Futurama, I have an array of examples. These are open examples that are populating the screen, but ultimately, all of these have just this right now. So what's happening under the hood is I'm reading this JSON document, stripping out the metadata, providing that to the front end, and then providing the list of options, endpoints here. So if we go to sample APIs, I just realized I'm on my local. Should probably do this live on sampleapis.com. So API lists, avatar. All of our APIs live on the server side, which is .api or api.sampleapis.com/avatar/info. And notice we have characters, the URL changes, and this little playground changes. So what goes in ultimately, what goes in the data is whatever you want. What goes in the structure of this, like the fact that I have info and characters and episodes here, is completely irrelevant. Like this is specific to this data. If we look at baseball, I have hits per single season. That one's going to take a while to load. It's a very large document. So I have ales for beers. I have ale, stouts, red ale. You can contribute to this particular file and add IPAs if you wanted to. You could add more ales or stouts or red ale or anything like that. So this level right here, outside of the metadata, is what eventually turns into an endpoint. And an endpoint is a URL that I'm going to hit to pull the data from, right? So this is just the data from the avatar one. If I were to go to /beer/red ale, I'll get that information there. So thinking about what I'm trying to accomplish with the monster hunt sanctuary, the first thing I need to do is to create a branch. So git checkout -b and say monsters. So now I've created a new branch from the branch, because that's where the latest is, and created a monsters. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new file called, I should probably call it monster sanctuary just to be in line with what we have going here. .json. And let's start the object off with what we have in here. So it's just an object with a metadata. So I'm just going to copy this real quick, paste it, close that out. And being that this is JSON, things are picky, right? So you have to use double quotes. You can't have trailing commas, things like that. This looks like a JavaScript object, but there's little nuances there. So we can start out by filling some of this information. I will fill the information more correctly when I have more time, instead of boring you with what I'm doing here. And I'm just going to call it games for right now and leave that out. So now what I'm thinking is, what's the layer that I want? So I'm thinking about just adding the monsters in here. So this is cool information, right? Not only do we have what the image is, we have the name of it, we have some elements that are associated with them, and all of their stats that can go with it. So I want to talk about how I scrape that data here in a second, but I'm just going to create me a little placeholder for that, call it monsters. And then that's going to be an array of information, an array of objects. So a high level takeaway, I spent some time doing this, and I highly recommend everybody, especially, I shouldn't say especially juniors or people breaking into it, because I find this exercise fun. Has anybody ever worked with the DOM and understand what that is, or is everybody living in these front-end frameworks, React, Angular, Vue land?
DOM, like the Italian mafia guy? It's
that guy.
That's the DOM? Right? That's the DOM.
The DOM. We've all heard about the virtual DOM, but have we heard about the DOM itself? So one of the ways that I go about doing this is just straight up opening up the console, and start looking at what's here. Right, this is just a table I can scrape information from. All right, so I have a table class here that gives me all the information. So I just need to figure out how to get this specific table, and then how do I get all these TRs and get the information out of there.
Jeremy, this is, that's always like, for me, what you're doing right now is always like the second thing that I check. The first thing I would check is to see, are they hitting an API that's already coming back with a JSON object that I could use. So
Okay.
I would go in my network
Cheater.
refresh and
Cheater.
see,
I think Jeremy wanted to show off.
Cheater
how
or
we do things here.
working smarter, not harder.
Working. Yeah.
Well,
yes.
the one of the major points of this, though, is which I didn't articulate very clearly, is I want to get more familiar with the API DOM, keep up to date with it, and then really harness the data manipulation side of things. So I'm just scraping the website to get all of this information out. How do I clean it up and make it something I need? So I'm gonna refresh the page, clear out the console, and see if I can start getting some information there. Because I mean, to Todd's point, there's 100 ways to get the data. The way that I was going is just go with the visuals, and looks like it's just images. Yeah, they're all images that are coming through for this particular data set. But to Todd's point, is very valid. Like, this is being populated from somewhere. So can we sniff the network and see what's coming from where, and can we borrow it? I wouldn't recommend just straight up stealing the data. I do need to make that caveat of, like, sample APIs is for educational purposes only. We don't own data. So if we could put something on there and the original content says we need to take it down, that's happening, right? So this is strictly for educational purposes. So in lieu of a valid API to call that we can ping back and forth from, I like to scrape the DOM. So that's a good way to go about it. What I've done is figure out what the table is, spread it into an array, and started manipulating the data. Now that I've got all the information in the object, so if I do this, these two lines right here in the console. So if you're not aware, the console in the DevTools is extremely powerful. It has access to the current page that you're on, and it has it's a JavaScript REPL. So just write some code in there and see what's going on. So what I like to do is look at what's happening. So if I document.query select to the monster table and look at it, well, now I've just selected that table. So if I do the same thing with table data, okay, this square bracket ... is the spread operator. If I do query select or all, I'm getting a node list, which is an iterable, but doesn't have all the array functions like map and filter and all that stuff. So that's why I spread it in there, because I'm going to use that here in a second. So now if I look at an individual item, this is just a DOM node, and the DOM node gives me all the information I need. So now that I take that information and start creating what I need out of it, and I'm going to show you a pretty cool trick here in a second. So, let data. So I just declared the two variables, one for table, just getting the information on the screen, and then the individual rows in an array format, and that's what I'm mapping through. So by doing that, I know the table rows. This happens to be very clean data, so I chose this example very specifically because I didn't want to get into all those little nuances and edge cases, because some data out there you got to handle all that, but that's a little bit beyond the point of this talk. So I'm creating image, name, elements, weaknesses, resistance, and the stats that we see with these little white bars. And then I'm just returning those information and getting that out there. So now if I run all that and take a look at what data 0 looks like. Oh, snap. That's my information I wanted. So now that I have all this data in here, how do I get it? How do I access this since it's being in this REPL, this dev environment, this console? Well, Chrome has this Cody copy. Chrome has this thing called copy that I can do, just copy data. Bloop. Let's take a look at this over here.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Wow. I've never seen that before. So
if I console log data, you see I have 101 items.
Jeremy, you've shown me that like 3 times now, and I never remember it.
So
that's amazing.
So how do you copy this? Like, how do I get this information? There's 101. Like, copying that's really not going to work because you're going to get literally the dots in there.
Oh.
So since I have it stored in a variable, just use the command copy parenthesis whatever variable you need, and it copies it in JSON format for you.
Dude,
For educational purposes only.
Stop it.
That was awesome, Dan. Yes, of course. Why else would we do
Amazing. Jeremy.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh.
I just blew your minds. That's
thousands
amazing.
of lines of JSON.
Hold on a second. I gotta pick up my mind from the floor. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
There we go.
My jaw. While you're down there, can you pick my jaw?
Pick up your jaw. You got it.
So now that we have the metadata created, this is important. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. That way we have something there, and then I'll fill it out later. How do I check to see if this works? Well, there's a couple of things still that we need to do. Very specifically for sample APIs, I require a backup file. So the backup file is literally just a copy of the blessed, sanctioned version of this, and just save it and call it a .backup. And I should probably fix this. I discovered this recently. We can't have dashes or camel case or anything like that, so please don't do that. I know I put that in there, but we shouldn't. And this has everything to do with a Linux versus Mac versus whatever thing. Damien and I were working on a new feature just a couple of days ago, and we discovered that doesn't work as expected. So when making the names, if there are multiple names in there, don't do anything fancy with camel casing or underscores or anything of that nature. All lowercase, all one word, move on.
No emojis.
Yeah, no emojis. This has to do with the hosting platform we're using. But now, okay, so now that we've got the backup file, we got the Monster Hunter, Monster Sanctuary regular file, how do I test it? Well, the first thing you do with any node project is you install the packages. I've already got them installed, so I'm not going to go through that. If we look at package.json, I've provided 2 scripts. You can either run node or npm run start or npm run server. The difference between the two is nodemon. If there's anything wrong in the server, it'll automatically shut down and try to attempt to restart. So if you're working on the API area, I recommend npm run server. And what this is going to do is this is going to open up the local repository on 5555, and then on the client side, we need to see if it worked, right? So npm run dev is the tool of choice.
By the way, just to let you guys know, the ones of if there's for the junior devs on here, npm run server is not that's not just like something that that you can type command line anywhere. It's specifically a script that Jeremy has in the sample APIs backend that lets you run that backend. It's in his package JSON as a script. So there you can see the script to run dev, and in the green window, you can, if you go to package JSON, you'd see the script to run the server. He's just using nodemon there, right? Just like, many of us have used before. So I just wanted to clarify that if anybody.
That's a great call out. The only one that works without the run in it is start for npm. So if you just did npm start, it would run this script. I have a habit of just putting run in front of everything, so that way I'm being explicit for that of, this is what I'm trying to do instead of accidentally installing something. So yeah, the takeaway from that is if you're running a new project and it's Node specifically, is download the dependencies, right, by npm I, and then look at these scripts to figure out what you have available to you. Some will have much more, some will have just the 3 that I have, right? Same thing over here. So now I'm loading up localhost 3000 because that's where my client side is running my React, and it's calling my server. And now I have Monster Sanctuary right here. All right, so now I got to debug why I'm not seeing my monsters. Cannot get. So let's look at, what did I do wrong? It's cool that it made it there. Do I have a problem with my JSON?
No, you don't have it in the API list. Did you add it? The API list.js.
Damien, are you talking?
Yes.
You sound really, really far away.
Oh, so far away.
Yeah, it sounds like you're 10 feet away.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Damien.
API list.
I think you need to like plug your microphone in or switch mics or something. Maybe you're sitting on it.
I think so.
It's an interesting
API
problem.
list. API list.
What did
He's
he
saying
say?
API list, Jeremy.
Yes.
API list.
What's going on with the API list?
Do you have to add monsters to the API list?
Do I? No, the API list is for the
If I learned anything from the
yeah,
different
this is the old way of doing
Damien,
stuff.
we can't hear you, man.
Not at all.
Like it, you said, like if I had giant ears like an elephant, I might be able to hear you. It's like Horton hears a who. Like I swear there's a Damien there talking. I swear he's on this flower.
Never been so quiet.
Oh, we laughed a little too hard at that one.
That was good.
Oh man. Oops. Why does that keep popping up?
Dan with the fire.
Get out of here. Did Damien just fix it by doing that? Why does that work? All right,
What did he do?
never mind. Like this shouldn't have worked, but it did. So what Damien was pointing out was there's a potentially third step. It's been a while since I've created a new API for my own system. So
Told you.
What'd you tell me? I didn't hear anything. You're so far
Exactly.
away.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
No, really, I told you, Jeremy.
That's what it was.
You told me, and yeah, that's what it is.
So,
nice.
So yeah, so the bam, look, now we got the API working. So what does this mean, right? So this is a RESTful endpoint that you could CRUD against, and CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. So if I wanted to see a specific item in here, I can go to / obviously not one. Oh, I don't have IDs. I got to do that. Whoops. Ooh, all right. So here's a little side note. So now that I have this data, check this out. Let's do a clear. Let's do let new data equals data.map. And I want to do, you know what? I'll do an index. So DI.
If Sebastian, if you're still on, look at this awesome use of .map, right?
And then we'll return an ID. of I, and I'll do ... D. New data.
It's D or D.
Jeremy, how are you getting
Bam.
new lines in there without hitting enter?
That's the browser. It's doing its thing. So I need to redo that because I need to do I+1 and then do new data 0. Bam, starting from 1.
No,
So
I mean like when you type new data equals data.map ti big arrow, and then how did you get to another line without like hitting
shift enter?
Shift enter? Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of
So
things
I'm gonna
are
do
shift
that
enter,
fancy
right?
fancy
Yeah.
trick of new data. Now I have all of my new data, and
Get rid
I'm
of the old
going
data.
to monsters equals boink.
Bam. It's sorry, it's bam, not boink, Jeremy.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's official.
And then I recommend doing the backup file after you figure out all these bugs and idiosyncrasies. Otherwise, you can go out there.
Twice and twice, yeah.
So I should explain why we have a backup file, right? So the fact that this is a fully CRUD endpoint means I can destroy this data. As a user, I'm trying to give this to my students, and this is a safe playground to completely mess this up, right? So I've created a way for us to be able to, as maintainers, Damien and myself, to be able to quickly reset without having to do a full deployment to get this data back. So essentially, in a nutshell, we're taking the backup files and replacing the main files with just a blind copy and paste. So we'll copy all the data out of the backup, dump whatever is in the JSON regular file, and just replace all that information in there. So that way, if you're a student or beginner to this and you completely nuke my data sets, okay, I'll fix it for you in 2 seconds flat. So that's what we've got going on. Now that we've confirmed this is working, how do we submit a pull request? If you guys aren't super familiar with Git, I recommend using something like a GitHub desktop, some sort of GUI to help you create the branches and visualize what's happening and create your pull request. So a summary of what I am trying to complete is add new endpoint. Adding endpoint data for Monster Hunter. Whoops, not all of that. For Monster Sanctuary. I just finished reading my book called Monster Hunter International. So that's why I was on a monster kick.
Nice.
If you guys haven't read that book, highly recommend. It's now a 9-part series. So if you're looking for a good series, highly recommend it.
Is it for adults, or can I suggest to kids? Or
no, it's definitely, there's a lot of swearing and violence.
Okay.
Ooh, I like
good.
violence.
It's good. So now that I've created this, I've got my main file, I've got my backup file, and apparently I need to do the API list. I gotta double check that. But we'll see here in a second. So let's do a commit to monsters. And then I need to publish branch, right? So when I pull down the local, pull down the main branch, everything lives on my machine. When I branch from there, that branch still lives on my machine. So I need to get that up to the origin, right? So since I'm the owner of the project, I'm not forking this. So this goes with a caveat. Since you're not the owner of this project, you need to fork this project, create a copy locally, and then push to your origin, right? So I'm pushing to my origin right now. So now I'm publishing branch. If we go to sampleapis.com or the GitHub page, notice I have a new branch that showed up. So for you, the difference is going to be you're going to merge back into my project, right? So once you've done the testing and you think everything is good to go, you create a pull request and link it to my project. If it's your project, then it's just going from branch A to the main branch or branch B to the main branch. But you have to fork it, right? Click this little fork button, create a copy of it locally, take your branch, make your changes, and then merge into mine. So typically speaking, if this were a one and done ticket, one and done issue, I would reference the specific issue number. Right, docs is 139, 140, 141. So if I were to work on this and close it, then there are a couple of flags you can use, closing keywords, that will automatically link the issue to your pull request. So that's going to be a part of the contribution guide, that you reference the ticket number, the issue number in your code or in your summary here. But since I don't want to close this ticket issue, I'm not going to add a number there. So what that looks like is closes number, here are all the things in here, right? So instead of me clicking on, oh, it's not even showing up in here. That's good. I would pick this number, and this would automatically associate it with the right one. So now what happens from here? All right, typically what happens from here is we submit the create pull request. Damien and I, being maintainers, get some sort of notification saying that we have a new pull request activated on here. And what we do is we go in and look at your files. The very first thing we're looking for is, does your pull request contain a backup file? That is the most common thing on my sample APIs that I can tell you haven't read the documentation because you don't have a .backup file. That is mandatory. I need that. And then the other thing is it in the right places? Like, are you calling it the right things? Does it have the camel casing case resolved? Is it any special characters in there? Things of that nature. Assuming everything is all well and good, then we click this fancy merge button. If it's not well and good, we'll submit a comment to you that you would have to take care of. So I would, if you run into issues where there are merge conflicts, typically, when I'm running a professional project, it's up to the developer to fix it. But since this is a brand new project, everybody's new to this project, there's a lot going on, I might step in and help that merge conflict with you. But I would recommend you guys take a stab at fixing that merge conflict. Usually it's accept both things and go from there. Sometimes it's, my change is the right change and go from there. Sometimes it's, I don't know what this is, so I'm going to accept from whatever the original source is. So that's a good thing for you guys to get familiar with. And that's it in a nutshell, right? We've talked about a whole bunch of things. So do we have any questions about anything? I don't see anything in the.
When you said they should get familiar with it, that's
yes,
with an
pun
I,
intended.
right? Yeah.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was his accent from. He's from one of those South states. I think it's Florida. So
Yeah,
that's why he pronounces like get. That's right.
We go mud, Cletus.
Mm-hmm. I believe Florida's in the south.
That's it in a nutshell. We've successfully figured out what our theme is, what we want to create an idea around. I love the idea around cars. Someone mentioned Harry Potter to me the other day. That's a great one I'd love to have on there. It's really anything you want. There's no wrong answer here. The whole point of this is to provide a bunch of data sources for students to, choose something that sparks their interest and build a little project around it. Another thing I didn't mention is let's go to Futurama real quick. Another way to contribute, instead of like actually creating this data and having it, students or someone consume this, what about contributing with using the data in a fun way, right? And creating a code pin and setting that code pin example to the document source, right? So I just thought of a new issue I'm going to create. I need to create a little bit more a visual guide to explain what I mean, but consume the data. What can you do with the characters information and create a little app around it? Todd, this would be a great thing for your students to do is consume this data, build a little CodePen example thing around it and submit it here. I'd love to have all that information on here. So to help further the next student of like, what do I do with this data? I have no idea how to consume this. My goal is to demystify all of this scary looking data and make it a little bit more accessible. So there's hundreds of ways to contribute, and I would be happy to have any angle of them.
And can we look into what happened at Hacktoberfest when you're done?
Yeah, did that change? That's a good point.
Probably not because it's your own project, right?
I flagged it. I've submitted to my own project before.
Yeah, it accepts it.
Oh, cool.
Did it log me out, really? Boom, 2 in progress.
Nice.
Doesn't really tell me what it is. Oh, that's a good thing to note too. Check that out.
What does it say?
Currently in a standard 14-day review period.
Well, yeah, and then they'll approve it. It's more a timer for us as owners of the you as owner of the open source project to deny the user. I don't think they check whether it's a good submission or something like that. I think it gives us as owners something like that.
Oh, that's why it did too, because I submitted a pull request for dev, merging dev into main.
Nice. Oh, nice. So if anybody doesn't know, this is last year. I don't know if you can see me on the screen. This is last year's T-shirt. You got a T-shirt. You got.
I didn't even think about wearing that today.
Yeah. So I'll wear it like this. So there's T-shirts, there's stickers, there's coffee, spill drink things. There's coupons. You get $100 off a particular server. That will give you enough for any kind of presentation when you present your $1 million idea. There's a lot of benefits to this, other than, of course, feeling good, looking good in your resume, and adding to a project that every one of the teachers and students out there are using. This is being used by West Boss. This is being used by a lot of people in Udemy. This, of course, by Boca Code and other schools out there, because it's just an easy repository of just wonderful data.
And it was built by 2 of the greats.
Oh,
One of the greats. I just hosted.
You've contributed some good things here, Damien. Some of these features, like the reset, wouldn't exist without you.
Indeed. Magic.
Oh, Todd, you'd be
Yes.
interested to see. I want to see if this works. So we Damien and I were working the other day. Let's do a post, right? So let's just show what that looks like. So we have a body. I'm gonna blow this up so we can see this a little bit better. So I have my local host running, and I want to submit question to patch to, so I want to post. I want to create a new element, right? So question is new question, right? Let's send this bad boy. What? Error handling? What? I figured it out. We were talking about this in when I was down there in August. So the issue is when you're learning this, you accidentally send me this information, and that completely nukes out possible answers or correct answer. So now I have very basic form validation for when you send the data to me. So now I show you what I expect, and I show you what I received. So as a beginner trying to get into this, you can't accidentally mess this up. So possible.
Beautiful.
And it might help if I can spell. So I'm just going to give this an empty array. I haven't quite figured out how to be like what goes in the array, like, or like if this were an object of information, how to get in there. This is strictly high level information. And then answer, whatever, right? 1. So this is an array of strings. Of course, this is JSON, so I need to use double quotes instead of single quotes. So now when I send, oh yeah, look at that. So another cool feature is if I patch, I'm sorry, if I put and I'm missing one of the pieces of information, put is similar to, let's do 29, that's the ID, right? So 29, let's send, put, I need to send all of the data to. So even if I try to manipulate what's in there and I'm using the put HTTP verb, then it's saying I need all of these items, and I only passed in that. So not only am I getting a proper 400 message like bad data, I have an explanation of what's there and then expected versus received. How cool is that? Your students can't accidentally mess up my data anymore.
Love it.
Ooh.
Amazing.
So put is a way to update. Like, so when you think about CRUD, create, read, update, and delete, you have 2 HTTP verbs that update, put and patch. Put, you need to pass in all of the data, 1 for 1. So in traditional HTTP servers, if I were to send this, it would delete whatever in there with the information I passed it. I'm suggesting that's bad for the sample APIs because sometimes students like don't send, they'll send me an empty object, and that's a valid put or put call, and it'll just wipe out my data. So what happens is I get a either a Slack message or a GitHub issue saying my data is messed up, and then I start having a panic attack and looking at the source JSON files, only to realize that someone has been using this and accidentally messed it up. Patch comes into play where I can pass just the data that I want to change and not the whole object. And it won't delete the rest of the stuff. Any other questions? It's silent in here. I miss in-person talks. This is where we
sorry
get
about that. I was typing up. Seabass wanted to know the put as you were describing it, so I put all the different verbs on the chat.
Was the last meeting in person or what?
There was one meeting that was in person. Anyway, something happened, so we didn't. We haven't had a real in-person meeting
I would
for
just say
a year and a half.
I would just say, we stopped meeting in person because of COVID.
Yep.
And then we met in person again, like right before Delta spike number 3.
Yeah,
so
that was a bad idea.
Yeah, it was bad timing.
We caused Delta spike number 3.
Right.
I think so.
No, not really. Actually, we were very safe. No one got infected.
Correct. So but we tried that, and then we even thought of like some other events. We've been virtual since 2000. I don't remember when this COVID started. Like, was that 2000, the beginning of 2000? Help me out.
March 2020.
March 2020 is when we started locking things down.
I think it was
when
like
things started locking down.
1986. I think it started in 1986.
So in 1986, we stopped meeting, and then we haven't met except for virtual ever since. And all that we thought about it a couple of times, and it's like
over the decades.
Right.
Personally, I love the virtual. I'm spoiled now because, my office is down in Boca, but now that I haven't had to drive there in a year and a half,
yes.
I'm much more likely to attend a virtual one.
Agreed. That makes a lot of sense. Me too. Absolutely.
So that's everything in a nutshell. That's where sample APIs came from, the history and where we're currently at. That's what Hacktoberfest is all about. This is how to contribute to, gaining inspiration, getting the data set and putting it into a pull request and submitting it off in there. So it's been a pleasure. I don't have anything else to talk about.
Nice.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
That's a good point. Actually, you can stay here if you're at home right now. Right. So
all right. Thanks, Jeremy. Love all the good tips, and
yeah,
hopefully we'll get some students, maybe Seabass, maybe Chris will contribute and
listen.
And
I can't afford. I can give you $100,000 job tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure you would turn that down if I told you could get a free T-shirt out of this event, free stickers and everything. I mean, which one of the two do you want? Right?
Oh, definitely the stickers and T-shirt.
I thought stickers or T-shirt, but okay, we'll go with both. And it's a no-brainer.
Oh wait, I have to choose between stickers, T-shirt, and job.
Correct. So choose two, like the old saying that Todd always says, right? So a famous saying, right, Todd? Please say it.
Well, I have no idea
when it comes to estimating your product, as far as you can get it cheap, you can
You're
get it
not first or
now.
last?
What's that?
If you're not first or last, or is that the wrong one?
You
I
can
think
be
that's
real, you can be fun, you
better.
just can't be real fun. I don't know.
That's right. That's right. You can do it fast, you can do it well, or you can do it what's it good for low cost. Choose two. So it's like my Steve has another one. Even last year's. Is that this year's? Which one is that, Steve?
It's an
2 years ago.
2018.
Damn. Steve's been around a long time.
Yeah,
That's
man.
impressive, Steve. I
You
think
see all the gray in his beard.
Indeed. That is impressive. That is impressive. So if you all want to join me, I'm going to put a particular website on the page here. It's win.florida. Sorry about the camera. I'm not going to explain to why. You can see my fingers. Join me at florida.winfloridajs.com.
I think I went too fast. I'm ticket number 120. You probably don't mean that, right?
Damn, good God. Okay. Everybody get off the webpage quickly. No, that's a good point. Let's go ahead and have everybody do me a favor and just pause right there. If you're typing it, just pause typing it. If you have typed it and the website came up, just bear with me for 1 second as I do some magic here, and somehow it will magically work. All right. So we see a lot of numbers coming in, I'm sure, and we have seen no one. You guys were you peoples, and I believe I pronounced it right. Let me see.
Or persons.
Okay. Yes. What? Why? No, peoples. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Why am I not there?
So I want you to do me a favor. Don't go to the website. Don't go yet to the website.
Now it's
if you can all go to the website one more time, you will now start seeing that you can ignore the numbers. Oh, sure. Yeah. Mr. Lopez.
Wait, why are there two number ones?
Because I reset it. I was number one, so you're fine.
Okay.
I appreciate you QAing nothing. Enrique, how come you joined us just when we're giving away the tickets? Were you watching live?
He wants to win, man. He wants to
I was not watching live.
You were totally watching live. Please.
Let me get my ticket, my friend. I missed you guys.
I miss you guys a lot. Miss you a lot, my friend. All right. So if you ignore the numbers to the left of the number one, it's Fibonacci.
For those of you that don't know Enrique, who just joined us, really good guy, big part of our tech community locally too. So we're always happy to have him.
Well, thank you.
So far ahead that he doesn't even need to come to these meetings. Enrique, tomorrow is
he already knows copy parentheses data, so
nice.
He didn't need that trick.
Wonderful. So yes. So yeah, that blew my mind. That blew my mind, Mr. Jeremy. That copy and inside the console log, you missed it, Enrique. You for that alone, it was worth the ticket of the prize.
Serious.
So does everybody have their tickets? Have everybody gone to win.floridajs.com? Then I'm going to go ahead and choose a winner. What do we have? It is JetBrains. So if I go ahead and go to JetBrains, Hello.
Notice
Yeah,
at no
please.
time do his fingers leave his hands.
Yes. Do they leave my hands? No. At no time do my fingers leave my hands. So any software here, not services, but software, is available for you for free because you're a winner. Anything you see in front of you. So I suggest things like WebStorm, which is just unbelievable. PyCharm. You can get IntelliJ IDEA if you're Rust or a Java developer. PHP Storm is also spectacular. Doesn't include everything WebStorm does. I thought it included everything WebStorm does. It's not true. WebStorm has a few things that PHP Storm doesn't. At least that's when the last time I used it. It's just magic stuff. There's Writer and ReSharper if you're a C# person like myself. But let's get to the winners. If you guys go ahead and look at your screen on your screen, you will see your number jumping. How? Magic. Next question. Who is number 8?
That's me.
Really?
Yeah. Why don't you pick again? Because I already get free.
Not anymore. Because you number 1 is the winner. Who was number 1?
Right. Luke.
I was, but I won't have time to use any of that stuff.
Sure.
I'm sure.
You're a very, very, very kind person. Very kind person. Are you sure? I'll give you one last time to say whether
I am positive. I got too much going on.
I appreciate that, Sharon. Listen, we appreciate tremendously your contributions and you joining us here and all that. So very, very nice. Thank you, Sharon, for giving anybody else a chance. Number 2. Who is number 2? Don't tell me it's Steve again. Steve, how many times you won 3 times?
Lucas.
Who's number 2? Lucas, that's you? Lucas is number 2. Okay, Lucas, go ahead and contact me. You can contact me at damienmontero@gmail. You can contact me even better at the Slack channel that you saw a little bit earlier. I'll actually type it here on the South Florida.org.
What's the name again?
Yeah, well, the website I found out is going to remain Tech Hub South Florida, but the group's name is South Florida Tech Hub.org/Slack. Both of them go to the same place. Look, join us there. Find me. I'm Damien. I'm just DIMIAN. You can reach out to me on the Meetup. You can meet up, click up to me on Twitter. Slack is the best place. So I will send you the license and you'll have access to any software you have. The trick is that the software is yours for life. You stop getting updates at the end of the year, but that doesn't mean you have to stop using it. You can actually continue using it. That's how it explained to me. That's what I'm using my WebStorm for. Thank you everybody for joining us. We are always excited to hear you present. Tomorrow's next month is not ready. We don't have the speaker ready, but we don't have documentation for the speaker ready. But if you want to join us, let me go ahead and stop this page. Thank you. If you want to join us, let me look at the screen so you can see it. If you want, look, it's like the video from whatever. If you're going to join us tomorrow. We are Miami.js. We're collabing with Miami.js. Find it in the meetup.com/Miami.js or meetup.com. Yes, jazz hands. So meetup.com/Miami.js or meetup.com/FloridaJS. You'll find the information on how to join us. I'll be there. Christina will be the one that's organizing that event. So you won't hear too much of me other than me as a contributor, a visitor. And we're talking about Ethereum and specifically the ether.js library for doing your Ethereum with JavaScript, doing a little Web3, little blockchain tomorrow. Next month, we'll find out exactly what depending on the speaker, what we're talking about, and check out meetup.com/FloridaJS, or of course, check your emails. Hopefully most of you guys